Hi and welcome. I've now developed some new forms, contact forms, and they are called the 6-star contact forms, and they're in various options. Let's have a look first at the English form with recaptcha 2. What you can now do within the cog is you can select either to use recaptcha or not use recaptcha. Show the title, show the text. You can, let's take the recaptcha off. You can choose to redirect after send to a different URL after a successful send, and you can send a copy of the email to the person submitting the form. You can make the required fields a different colour. So you can change the colour of the required border. They won't show in the Mobius program, but they will when published online, or you can leave them just to be as normal fields. The site name to include in the email, so it says thank you from the whatever site. You can show the phone field or not show the phone field, and if it's shown, you can then set it to be required or not required. The same with the subject field. As you can see, it just now disappeared from over there when we took it off. And you can change the prompt of that. So if you wanted that to be something like quote 4, you can change that here. Oops, we'll put an extra O in there. Quote put the O in the wrong place, haven't we? So quote 4, you can say that's required or not required. You can show the mobile or cell field. You can show the address line 1. As you can see, as soon as you say no, then it disappears, and also make that required. The address line 2, the same thing. City and town field, the same thing. Excuse me. Show the country, state, province field, the country field, the zip code field. They're all optional, and they're also, you can set them to be required or not. You can show the company field, that's that one there, or you can hide it, and you can change the name of the prompt. So you can have it just company if you want, or whatever you want to put in there. And again, you can set it to required or not required. Again, the message box field you can remove. So if you want to use this as a registration form, you can simply remove all the fields except the name and email, and set the field to be a registration field. Again, you can, let's just put the back on, that looks prettier. You can also change the prompt in the message box if you wish as well, as you can see. Then the drop down option, you've got a drop down field here. Now in the Mobius program, the actual options won't display, but the prompt will. So you can change the prompt, so you can have the prompt for whatever you want, and if it's a required field, and also if they're allowed to select more than one option from the box. And then you just enter the options in the boxes below, and you enter them in consecutive order, and then once you've got all your options, the rest of the fields you leave blank. And you can enter up to 20 different options for the box. Then you've also got the custom radio buttons, so you can, if we ever look down, there we go, got a license, yes, no, we're not saying. And there again you can change the prompt, option value at 1, 2, and if you can only show 2 if you wish, or you can show 3 and put the third value in. Then you also have a date picker, and you can either show or hide the date picker field. and you can set the prompt for that, and the date format, and what date to start at and what date to end at. And you can set the display of the date picker to various different displays, so it starts at millenniums, or starts at centuries, or starts at years, or starts at day, the current month and day, and you set that to one of the values there, and the values are described in the user guide. And the start view, what the start view is. So in this case it's 0, which means it will start on the current month and current date and so on, and whether it's a required field. And then you have a second date selector option, which works in exactly the same way, and so you can use it for arrival date and departure date and so on and so forth. And again, that's can be set as required or not. Then you have the field 1, which is a custom field, so you can put in whatever you want as the prompt and whether it's required. And then you have a second customizable prompt or field. Again, you can set whatever the prompt is and so on. Then you can choose whether or not to show the gender field, which is where are we? Just there, male, female, or prefer not to say, and that will always be required if it's on the form. They have to select one of the 3 options, and you can choose to hide that if you wish. Then you've got the website URL and whether it's required, Facebook URL and whether it's required, and the LinkedIn URL and whether it's required. Again, you can hide those. Then you've got the show upload attachments, and you can switch that on or off, and the maximum file size that they can upload, and that's in megabits, and that will depend upon the settings in your host. However, there is instructions on how to upgrade that to a higher value, because most hosts will default to 2 megabit, but if you wanted it to be 20 megabit, you can set that in an htaccess file. Okay, then there's the maximum number of files that they can add, so it can be anything from 1 to 6, and whether to show the accept terms field, which is down there somewhere. Where are we? We'll show the accept term fields and the privacy fields, and you can set the version of your terms of use and privacy policy in the cog as well. If we just get up there again. Oops. Okay, so there you set the terms version and the privacy version. You can make them blank if you wish. Then you can set the submit button color and the submit button text color. Now, when you set those, so if we set that to pink and white, you will see that it's changed down the bottom here. Now, if you change pages or reload the site, you'll find that these colours won't be correct on this display here. However, when you publish, that will remember the colours that you've set in here, so everything will still work as it should. And then, of course, you can set the top padding and the bottom padding. You can choose to add a background image. Parallax will only work on some themes, and background color if you want instead of an image, and there's an overlay and the color and opacity, so you can set all those things in the form. So if we just made this say straightforward contact form, so we would have, where are we? Okay, so we'd have the redirect, etc. Make the required borders colored, and we'll make them purple. Site name to copy from, so in the contact form we would want the phone field, but perhaps not required. We wouldn't want the subject field, perhaps. We wouldn't want the mobile field. So we're just going to select certain fields to make a normal, simple contact form. Message is required, of course. We're not going to use a drop down, we're not going to use the custom radios, we're not going to use a date field or date to field. We're not going to use agenda, website, Facebook or LinkedIn. We're not going to show attachments, but we are going to show the terms and privacy, and we'll leave the submit button colour as that. So there we are, there's our finished form, just with those fields on. Oh, we've left one there, number of cars and car colour, we didn't want them. Whoops. Oh, come on. We didn't want that. And we didn't want that. There we go. So we've got a standard contact form, name, email, phone, message, and so on. And then when we publish that to our website, everything will work fine. If we use the recaptcha, then we will need to enter the private key here, sorry, the public key here, and the private key gets entered into a secret PHP file with instructions how to use that. Okay, so that's our form. So if we just preview that form, there we go. And because we're viewing it locally, we'll get an error for the domain key for the recaptcha. But once published online, then that will, and it's set up correctly, then that won't be a problem. Okay, so that's the English form. The English form RC3, which is recaptcha 3, that works in exactly the same way, except that obviously that you have a recaptcha 3 key in there instead of a recaptcha 2 key. Now both of those forms are available in English or Greek. So there's the Greek version there, and if it's in Greek, you will find that everything is in Greek, including the calendar. So if we just preview that again, if we preview the Greek form, let's preview the Greek form. As you see, that's got all the fields on this one. But if we look at one of the date fields, you'll see the calendar is also in Greek, and the upload buttons, etc., are again also in Greek. Okay, so that's the Greek form. Just minimize that for a minute. Okay, so then, and also the recaptcha 3 form is also available in Greek. So if we insert a new page, and this is SMTP, there's also an SMTP version in extensions. There we go, and so that's the same, again, all works in exactly the same way, except for this one that uses SMTP to send a mail instead of the normal PHP mailer. Okay, so that's all the new forms. Enjoy.